So, have you ever really stopped to think about what makes a product more than just successful? What makes it a true cultural icon? Well, today we're going to dig into one of the biggest examples on the planet, the Ford F-Series. And believe me, the answer is way more interesting than you might think. And to really get at this, let's start right here with this story. This isn't just about needing a truck for rural Arizona. The real key, the thing that unlocks this whole puzzle, is that last line. It felt right. That feeling, that's what we're chasing today. Because that feeling of rightness, it's not just one person's experience. Nope. It's a massive force that has pushed this single line of trucks to become the #2 best-selling vehicle in history. And I'm not saying best-selling truck, I mean best-selling vehicle. That's a huge deal. Okay, now this is where it gets really, really interesting. Take a look at the all-time bestsellers list. What do you see? A pattern, right? You've got your Toyota Corolla, your Honda Civic. It's just a whole sea of practical global sedans. And then, bam, sticking out like a sore thumb, there's the Ford F-Series. I mean, we're not talking about a small difference here. This is a complete break in the pattern. Every other car on that list is designed to be sold everywhere to everyone. The F-Series, it's something else entirely, which, it immediately makes you ask, why? So the first logical guess is just pure utility, right? I mean, maybe trucks are just incredibly useful for everybody, and the F-Series is just the best truck out there. That's a totally reasonable assumption to make, at first. But the data tells a different story. Turns out the F-Series' wild success is almost entirely a North American thing. It's built for and sold to the US and Canada. If you go to Europe, yeah, you'll see Corollas and Civics everywhere. But an F-150, it's a super rare sight. And that tells us its appeal isn't universal, which kind of just makes the whole thing even more of a mystery. So here's the crucial point. If this was all just about function, towing and hauling stuff, then you would absolutely expect other workhorse trucks that are popular all over the world, like the Toyota Hilux, to be on that bestsellers list. But they're not. They're not even close. And this is the moment where we have to pivot. We have to move past this simple idea of a truck just being a tool. The evidence is pointing to a completely different, and honestly, a much more powerful reason for its total dominance. So the whole argument really boils down to this question. Is the F-Series selling millions of trucks because of what it does or because of what it means? Is it just a tool you use for a job, or is it a symbol of a whole lifestyle, of your identity and a certain set of values? And to test that theory, we don't need to get all complicated. We can just look at how people actually use these trucks in the real world. So let's just ask one simple question that gets right to the heart of this whole utility argument. What percentage of owners actually use the main feature of a pickup, the bed, on a regular basis? Seriously, take a guess. The answer might surprise you. According to a 2021 survey from CarGurus, the answer is only 39%. Just let that sink in for a second. The majority of truck owners, over 60% of them, are not regularly using their truck for its main functional purpose. And right there, that one number tells you pretty much everything you need to know. For most owners, the main function isn't the main reason for owning one. This isn't about hauling cargo. It's about carrying a sense of identity. It's about a feeling of belonging. This totally reframes how we look at the truck. It stops being just a piece of equipment and becomes what you'd call a cultural artifact, an object that's just loaded with meaning, way beyond what it can physically do. And in the United States, man, the truck is coated with some seriously powerful cultural meanings. It's a symbol of blue-collar pride. Even for people who work white-collar jobs, it stands for independence, for rural values, and for a kind of rugged self-reliance that's been hammered home for decades in music, movies, and ads. So what's the big takeaway here? This isn't some weird exception to the rules of economics. It's actually proof that stories, the narratives we tell ourselves about who we are, can be just as powerful in the marketplace as good old supply and demand. It's really the same idea that drives the luxury market. People don't buy a Rolex because it tells time better than a cheap digital watch, right? They buy it for what it signals: success, status, a certain taste. The F-Series works in a very similar way. It signals a lifestyle and a set of values. But hold on. Ford doesn't just sit back and rely on culture to do the work. No, they actively reinforce it with this brilliant strategy. You could call it a system of familiarity.
See, the F Series isn't just one truck, it's a whole ecosystem. It scales all the way from the F 150 you might drive every day up to the heavy duty F 450s and F 550s used in commercial fleets and even as fire engines. And here's the genius part: the cab, the controls, the feeling of being inside, it stays remarkably consistent all the way up the line.
What this does is create this powerful feedback loop. The truck you drive for your job, the one you trust in a high-stakes situation like fighting a fire, it feels just like the one you drive your family around in on the weekend. That shared feeling builds this incredibly deep sense of trust and capability that just gets baked right into the brand. So after all that, what's the big takeaway? The incredible decades-long success of the Ford F-Series is basically a masterclass in how a product can go beyond what it does to become a core part of a culture's identity. Ultimately, it's not about horsepower. It's not about towing capacity. It's about the story the truck helps you tell about yourself. It's a mirror that reflects a very specific version of the American identity. And for millions of people, that's a way more powerful reason to buy than anything you can list on a spec sheet. So the next time you see a product totally dominating its market, maybe the question isn't what does it do, but who does it let you become?